And the public themselves have been so indoctrinated that they come to expect these policies to be fulfilled. I mean, here in Canada, there's another show election coming up, and the present Prime Minister, who's re-running again, has just promised to bring in more expanded free daycare for every Canadian woman. And then they talk to the women in the streets, of course. I don't know how many they select for the television, but these women all say automatically, well, that's about time. It's about time we had this, you know. Mm-hmm. In other words, it's about time that everyone else brought up my child for me. Mm-hmm. That's really what they're saying. So they come to expect these government social policies because they want to. You know, they say socialism is perpetual immaturity. It's a Peter Pan syndrome. You don't want to grow up and face the world on your own. And unfortunately, the technique is it works very well on women because they want protection. They want promises of security. And that's what Hitler said. I mean, Hitler said, and he was only quoting Nero, that both of them said, our policies must be directed at the woman. We shall promise her food and security, etc., and she will come to us, and the child will have to follow her, and then must follow the man. Mm-hmm. So this system is still working today. It's the same policies, because these are formulas, these are behavioral formulas, and when you know how to introduce those formulas, you'll come out with the same end product, basically. And these formulas have been known for thousands of years by elite groups, and they keep all of these in archives, not in public libraries. And that's also what's taught at some of the Ivy League universities and the old Stone universities.
Do me a favor.
Europe.
Do me a favor. Recount though because that was great, and I've lost the memory of it from the last time we did it. Tell me what the significance of archives has with the common people.
Well, since the time actually of the Minoans, the Minoans made sacred beehives as a symbol of the perfect structured society, with the queen bee, then the drones, which are the priests run about them, and the administrators, bureaucracies, and then you have the workers down below. And of course, Egypt used the same symbol for their perfect society. Napoleon picked up on that too. He put the bee up there on his flag at one point and had a robe made with bees on it. And the higher Masons sometimes call themselves the true bees, the workers, you know.
Is this necessarily pyramidal too, also in structure?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's what they use as a symbol of their perfect society. That's why I think Utah has their coat of arms with the beehive.
State.
Yeah.
And what will you divine from that? That the Mormons there and something's up there, or what?
Well, the Mormons definitely. We know Adam Smith was a Mason, and
Joseph Smith, yeah.
And Joseph Smith, sorry, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this is always their symbol of the perfect structured society. And then there's a wordplay there too. So archives, yes. I mean,
That's
if
amazing.
You're a bee, you put stuff in a hive, and the ark is a symbol of their promise, their agenda. And so because the sun travels in an arc every day over the sky.
So we can speak to it as an overarching agenda.
Right. That's right. So they have archives with knowledge which are not accessible to the public. And Masonry, in fact, in high Masonry, PO and PU are the lowest forms of life.
Right.
So we get what they dish out to us at the bottom, and they've skimmed off all the good stuff for themselves with all of this knowledge. Well, and it does come to the fore once in a while. I think there's an author called Barbara, is it Tillman?
Oh, Tuckman. Barbara Tuckman.
Yeah.
Oh, she's excellent, yes.
And it's so obvious to me that she's a chosen author to get into these archives because she's been authorized to come out with the information that she has. Now, many authors have gone in before and omitted this relevant information about the past, but she's allowed to bring it to the public. Mm-hmm. So they are definitely authorized to on what to disclose and how much to disclose, and what aspects to never to mention, you see.
I would agree that Quigley was in the same category, but be that as it may, you're still getting good information.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you read it or not, but I tell you, Tuckman, I think of The Distant Mirror. Did you read that at all?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
There's some great stories in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so those, and so that tells you that there were detailed histories kept right down to personalities of main characters. So nothing was lost in the centuries, you know.
All right, now, boy, I tell you what. Like I said, we could talk, forever. But I want to get back to what I promised myself, yourself, and everybody else that we would get back to, and that is the system. So let's talk about free trade, what it meant back when, what it means now, and what it might mean in the future, if you will.
Yeah. Well, John Dee, with the jump to the 1500s from England to find he coined the term the British or British Empire, and he proposed to Queen Elizabeth I that this empire should basically stretch across the whole world eventually, and it would basically take over every country into a one system based on the British Empire by using trade negotiations and law. So he was the first one to mention that the sort of free trade, that they could trade between countries who'd signed on to copy the exact same system as Britain, you know. That's how it really was started at that period, or this update, put it that way. And of course, it's no secret that the Rothschilds openly, even in the authorized biographies, had from the very beginning pushed the concept of free trade to countries who would accept the British form of government and bureaucracies and banking. In other words, duplicate the exact same system, and they would bring them into free trade areas. And but of course, once again, those corporations that wanted to trade would have to go through the British Crown for a yay or a nay, and so it was not a true free thing. Whereas, anybody could take his wares and sell them to whoever he wishes. You had to be authorized or chartered to do so, and that's exactly what it is. It's not free trade as such. It's free between the big players who all belong to the same club anyway, and it certainly cuts out hassles for them. China is a free trade member because all of those containers coming from China, thousands and thousands every day, even have it written in their charter of free trade that they don't have to even open them here at customs.
Well, free's a nice sounding word. Free trade's nice, and I've had people email me, and we've gotten into discussions about, like, well, what's wrong with this? I mean, this is a good thing. And I understand how it sounds, and I often use the analogy of, like, well, would you bite into a poison apple if you knew it were a poison? If it looked really good, would you, why would, in other words, so you got to put a shine on it to make people bite into it.
That's right, free. And trade is a nice word, too. We trade things.
Sure, but it's free, as you said, for the monopolists.
Yeah.
But really, when you talk about it, then that makes the workers bereft of any kind of place to take their wares or trades or anything else.
Yes. And
you're basically stuck with whatever you got, and that's the way it's going to be. Am I right in that assessment?
Absolutely. It cuts out all competition from anybody who would wish to take part, because only those who are authorized to take part are given the charters to participate. So really, it's a monopolization of the world system. It also encompasses your future, your children's future, because it isn't just about trade, it's about unification of the world. You see, that's how they started off the European Union. It started off with free trade. And before you know it, they're signing laws and agreements amongst them until everything was being standardized amongst you, till you're all the same with your law systems and bureaucratic type systems, and eventually one day you're under one government. And that's where it's supposed to bring. It's intended to do that. So under the guise of free trade, it's a whole world structural system under a single government. That's what it's all about. It's the accomplishment of Karl Marx. It's the accomplishment of Weishaupt. It's the accomplishment of Albert Pike, who had the same agenda as the communists too. because it's all one and the same agenda.
But as you said, it goes back to the Phoenicians, and as the Collins brother would say, it goes back to the Canaanites. I mean, as you mentioned at the outset of the show, it's a continuum. You change the faces, but the agenda is the same.
Always the same.
And, of course, now we have a little bit different of a spin on it in this FTAA and such. And the one thing I find really interesting, and, of course, I am ignorant of what goes on your media up there, which I still think is probably a little bit more investigative than ours is truly. And I don't know how much more. But Galen Ross, I don't know if you're familiar with that name, are you?
Yeah.
All right, Galen did a crude half an hour, 40-minute thing on the American Union, but he ripped all this stuff from C-SPAN, and here you got these characters like David Rockefeller, what a surprise, Gergen, Madeleine Albright, Cheney, and they're all like just extolling the virtues of this American Union. Meanwhile, all the Johnny Lunch Buckets and their wives and families have no idea what's going on because this is not passing through anybody in the media or on the Hill.
Yes, I taped that when it was, I think it was the 27th of March this year, where they signed that amalgamation of the continent into one at Waco, Texas. And I've got the CBC television did not a documentary, it was on the main news, only for about 2 minutes, but they did say that it was the total integration of the countries. And it's a done deal. And they had 6 more meetings to complete this year alone to get this phase of it through. And George Bush himself was extolling the virtues of this and how fantastic it would be. And he used the term again, free trade, and et cetera, and how friendly it all was. But one of the main reporters stood up in the interview and said, does this mean it leads to the same unification as the European Union? And then Prime Minister Martin jumped in quickly. He's a better lawyer, And he said, well, it's not exactly the Big Bang. It's just, he tried to sort of belittle it to an extent. But it's a done deal. It's all set up for the amalgamation, which again brings us back to Karl Marx, because in the 1840s, he was writing about the coming 3 world trading blocks with a united Europe, a united Americas, and the Pacific Rim group under a single world government. That was all the extension of the Communist Manifesto. So this is nothing new. Again, they're only fulfilling their mission. It's all approved by the European royalty. It's all approved by those that lead the Marxists of the world. In other words, there's only one top at the head of this. And it's nothing to do with free anything. It's a matter. It's to make everyone totally interdependent through laws, right down to the water that you drink, where you can get it from, how much you'll pay for it, right down to the fact that you won't be able to even grow your own vegetables in the garden. You must be interdependent for everything.
Well, I tell you what, you just in that last 30 seconds, I mean, you're making my head spin, because we've talked so much about this, and I've not really, it's not that I come up with this stuff because I just think about it, but I mean, we look at the research, we look at a lot of the stuff that's written in past decades, and then, they've told you where we're going.
Yes.
So when I say this stuff, people go, well, that's your opinion. It's not my opinion.
No, it's written, it's documented, it's discussed at all the high-level meetings, and there's always publications come out after these high-level meetings, which no one bothers to read except the few short-sighted ones that are left.
Well, let me throw this out at you. I mean, I'm still listening, as I told you, to this 16-part series on land patents from Europe and the United States.
Yeah.
And it was talking about, and believe me, I'm still doing this from a bit of an ignorant point of view, so I'm just throwing it out. I'll, in justice to everyone who listens, I'll follow it up, and hopefully it'll be with you, Alan. But I'm hearing all these caveats about land ownership, and it's like, well, no, the Crown owns all the navigable waters and the land there under, and the land on which the tides wash. And I'm going, hold on a second, are you telling me, that for instance, New York State, like all the counties that are on both sides of the Hudson, and it's like I'm starting. I mean, I'm not there yet, but I'm like, are you telling me you got to consult with the Dutch, the French, or the British to say who actually holds title to this land?
Right.
I mean, that's bizarre. Also, with the water and food situation, Did you ever read a short story by Asimov called The Winnowing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so there you go. I mean, they can construct terrorist activities in every sector of our life,
Mm-hmm.
beyond oil, beyond energy, that would be, say, electricity and gas,
Yeah.
to the food system,
That's
to
right.
the water.
Uh-huh.
And then you're right. You can't grow a garden because you might be having some kind of, demon seed in there. Like they've got genetically modified, produce, but don't worry about it because your garden might be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you do see this as the beginning of everybody being forced to rely on the state as mother or father, God.
Yes, that's what they really mean by interdependence. When they first threw it out, it was to mislead us into thinking that we'd be dependent on Africa for chromium and things like that. But it goes much further. It goes down to the individual level, where there's no aspect of your life where you will be allowed to be independent at all. In fact, being independent in any aspect of your life will mean that you're antisocial. That's what they'll tell you.
Well, I'm glad I'm antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
So are you.
Yep.
Also, with your studying,
Mm-hmm.
you must have been a young man back in the UK, up in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume that the United States and the citizens think that they are so on top of stuff, they are on the cutting edge,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that therein lies the mirage.
Mm-hmm.
In essence, did you feel that you were freer and also had more access to the information that has been laid into the centuries about what is to come?
I think it was at that time for sure, yeah. I mean, I remember I was really small, and there was in the 1960s there was a conference held in Britain, a world conference by the Royal Institute of International Affairs with all the CFR countries as well, and the US was represented. It went on for 2 or 3 weeks, and a little blurbs came out in the newspaper, and the whole idea of the conference was to decide which culture would be promoted as the dominant culture for the world. Should the English do it through movies and so on and TV productions, or should the United States do it? There was no other competition. It was already decided. It was decided back in the days of Francis Bacon that English would be the dominant business language of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And so they came up with the idea that America should have the job of promoting the culture through music and movies and so on, and also to do the majority of the policing of the world until the Chinese took over.
I'm thinking that the Chinese are into the bankers too, so they're not going to do anything that they don't want them to do.
No,
even though they seem enigmatic and esoteric and inscrutable, as we often say.
Yeah.
But they're in the game also, and they may be used. I mean, will we have to fight them? Absolutely, but that will be orchestrated. The Chinese will not do anything because I mean, there's stories about the Rockefellers being in China also.
Oh yeah, I mean Bertrand Russell went over there. Yeah. Lord Bertrand Russell, he was sent there in the 1920s to set up the recruitment system and train students for the coming communist system.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a British lord with a grant from the Queen to go over and do this, you see. And they sent many of his own kind over there to do the same thing. So China, I mean, in the 1937 at the Australian World Meeting of the Royal Institute of International Affairs and CFR, and I have the members' copies, they said that they would build up China after the war towards the end of the millennium to be the world's sole manufacturer for the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's quite something. When these are long-term business plans,
mm-hmm.
and when they said that China was a third world nation,
yeah,
and sure enough they have done it at the right time. They're right on track. And then they said that the United States will go through 2 or 3 more minor wars, they said, mm-hmm. and almost exhaust themselves. But like most empires, they said, it'll be a final push, totally exhaust itself, and then China will take over the role as the policeman of the world. This is in 1937 at the World Meeting of the Royal Institute of International Affairs.
All right, now I believe on that. Don't get me wrong, but if people want to go chase that down, can you give them volume and?
Yeah, it's just it's called the minutes and meeting of the meeting of the Royal Institute of International Affairs. I think it was Sydney, Australia. It was either Sydney or Melbourne, 1937.
All right. Will you spell Rollins is spelled how?
Pardon?
You said Rollins or? What? There was something there that I didn't catch. That if people had to spell it out to do a search on LexisNexis.
Yeah, it's the minutes and the meetings of the Royal Institute of International.
Oh, the Royal Institute. Yeah. I got you. Okay,
of International Affairs and the CFR. The book was printed even then.
Okay.
By the Rockefeller Foundation.
I got you.
It has that in the first page, and it is quite honest. It tells you the truth. It says this is a non-profit, non-political organization.
Yeah.
See, they don't play politics. They simply make an agenda.
Yeah,
they make the rules.
Yeah, I know, but they play politics. We know that. All right, we're talking with Alan Watt. He is the author of 3 titles that come under the heading of the Cutting Through series. You can obtain them. He's in Canada, so you have to send him either Federal Reserve notes or international money orders, and you can do that to Alan Watt, care of Site, S-I-T-E, 41, Box 4, Esther, Ontario. That would be E-S-T-A-I-R-E, and their zip, the Canadian zip, is Peter 3, Edward 4, Norma 1. Did I get that right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and please, by all means, and I'm sorry that I've been a little late in doing that, but like I said, I got to go into the big city to get the international money orders. We only have a little time left, and of course, we want you to come back for one more hour if it's possible.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you just kind of like in a lightning round. All right, let me throw this out, and I guess that's all we're going to have time for, and that is, to me, I think that a threshold moment will be the Olympics in China, where you have an aggressing and militarily building nation showing itself off in an Olympics as Germany did in '36. Yeah. Might we expect, and do you agree or whatever, give us our view, do you think things might get unhinged after 2008?
I know that there's an immense crisis to be brought on by 2010, so whatever they can do to get us all off balance and panicking, so that they can bring in the solutions, they will do everything that they can to get us in that mode. So we've got a lot of crisis creation and build-up going up to that date and to 2010,
Mm-hmm.
So coming plagues, war, they'll use everything, I'm sure, to get us all unhinged.
6, we hope. This is Viz, and we have with us Alan Watt for the third part of a 3-part series that I loosely titled The System, because the first 2 segments Alan addressed basically what makes the world go around, and always has, and that's the economic system. It's all about the money. In this third segment, Alan's pretty deep in knowledge about Freemasonry, which is another system, a belief system, if you will, a spiritual system, if you will, and we're going to direct most of our discussion today toward that. Alan, thanks a lot for being with us today, and again, for the third time here on the Grassy Knoll.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, yeah.
And what do you have what'd you say, about a foot of snow cover up there?
That's about that, uh-huh.
Well, it's nothing compared. We got to deal with 50-degree temperatures down here. It's horrible.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
I know. And most of the people that live by you are down by us anyway, so.
Sure. Well, it's 20 below last night. So.
What?
20 below last night.
Are you talking Fahrenheit?
Yeah.
Holy mackerel. How far are you from Hudson Bay?
Well, that's a bit east of me. Yeah. That's a long trek with snowshoes.
Let me ask you this. Have your tires ever turned square?
They have, they have got bumps in them after a cold night. Yeah.
Holy mackerel! I spent 2 winters in Vermont. That was enough for me. Minus 35 below brought tears to my eyes.
Well, last year I hit 40 below.
You beat me.
And 40 below, there's hardly anything left in the thermometer to pop. So
You're absolutely right. When I went and looked at the thermometer, I knew we were going to have an all-time low. I went down to this old lilac tree outside the house, and I'm looking for the mercury. I couldn't find it. It never came out of the ball.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do you have any facial hair?
Have what?
Do you have a mustache or anything?
I got a bit of a beard.
Well, I'll tell you what. I always thought it was a joke about snapping off a mustache.
Yes.
I had one at the time. It's no joke. Oh, that could have happened.
Yep.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for being with us again. As I said, it's really been enjoyable. About Freemasonry, this is something that, it has kind of like two lives. You got the guys down the end of the block who are basically Blue Lodge, I think, first to third degree Masons, and who do good stuff and go bowling and have a couple of brews. But they have no idea, do they, about what the higher degrees are doing and just what a history that those individuals have had behind them, do they?
No, they don't. It's a need-to-know basis. It's like any secret society or security secret company. It's the same idea. And even though they say that everything is contained within the first 3 degrees, that's very off-putting. It covers the real intentions because it's really a selective system. That's what it's for. It's just to bring them in and filter them through and select the ones who will go higher into the other realities, you might call them. If you even have a small newspaper in your area, they will tap you out into a side lodge, another lodge, like the Black Lodge, for instance, and you won't tell the Blue Lodge brothers where you're going or anything about it, and from there you'll be coached because you can now create public opinion in your area, so you're useful to the system. I've
not heard the term Black Lodge before. What would that refer to?
There are all the lodges are color coded. It's all Pythagorean.
Okay.
And of course, the Blue Lodge is supposed to be the open lodge, the blue of the sky.
Okay.
Where it's more, whatever's done there is more open amongst themselves, even though they don't understand the ceremonies they've gone through. They think they do, but as Albert Pike said, they don't. They're intentionally misled. So then they go into the Black Lodge, and that's where the secrecy occurs, of course. Now the real oaths begin, and you're groomed for much higher positions within the Masonic fraternities.
2 quick questions about the degrees and also about the 2 branches of Freemasonry. Mm-hmm. With regard to the Scottish Rite, yeah. Some say that because of its geometric relationship, that there are lodges beyond 33, that perhaps they go up to 360. Have you found anything that would confirm that?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. In fact, Aleister Crowley, who began in the English Grand Lodge, and he joined it, by the way, because he was tapped out of the Church of England. He was at a church service when he was tapped to come into Freemasonry. Mm-hmm. And so that's also where they select the people within the churches. And he went on, eventually, he was groomed by the British Secret Service, and he worked for them all his life. And his job was to go out into the world and create other sects, which would attract youngsters under the form of magic and so on. So he founded the OTO.
Oh, okay.
But prior to that, he was also a member, after the English Lodge, he joined the French Lodge and a few other ones. So he was a world traveler. Then he founded the OTO. He trained the people who eventually went off to found other sects. And this is how they do it, just like the monks in the Middle Ages did it. They would found a monastery, give them a name and a charter, and then they would then spawn off another one with another speciality, you might say. Well, each type is a special lodge. So the OTO was set up by Crowley. It spun off the two guys who created the Church of Satan, and also Scientology.
With Elron?
Yep.
Also,
so all of these things are actually Freemasonic, you see.
Have you ever read or had any exposure to Craig Heimbichner's OTO?
Yes,
All right, and so he was saying this is beyond Freemasonry. So if we do, in fact, go above 33rd degrees, are we entering, say, the OTO section of Freemasonry that goes into higher degrees?
That's one way of doing it. There's other side branches that do the same thing from all other lodges. And it's open in their own books. The OTO will tell you they have 97 degrees.
And by the way, Chaim Bickner's book is Blood on the Altar. I had a little senior moment there, but he's been on the show twice. I thought he did some pretty good work. Mm-hmm. Also, are you familiar with Jan van Helsing's work, Secret Societies and their influence in the 20th century, something to that point? Because he talked about there were 99 degree lodges. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yeah, I've had them as well.
Would you confirm that in fact is substantive?
I think that only was for a short period of time. Even in prior to the French Revolution, they had a select bunch trained for revolution, and they had the most of their parliament that they formed after the revolution was formed or staffed by these particular Masons at that degree. Yeah, they called them the ancients. Yeah,
I have his book in a PDF format, and I've not looked at it for a while, but I was intrigued by the fact that I think he might have even said that the 99 lodges existed in the time of Hitler, and of course there's another whole connection there. Do you think for any way or purpose that those lodges no longer exist? You seem to think that might have been timed out?
They might have, or transformed into another branch, because what they're created for really is a special job, a special function for a particular time period.
All right, now I'm going to run this by you too, and I'm a little reluctant because it's out there, but we are talking about the occult, and it is supernatural. Mm-hmm. Van Helsing also said that in those 99 lodges, that demons were at the head of them.
Yeah, is this from England? This guy Van Helsing?
The book was a translation, and of course the name Van Helsing. I think he might be Dutch.
Okay,
that's my guess, and. If you don't mind, if I can, well, it's kind of hard now, I know. In snail mail I can do this. I can forward you the book that I have in PDF file.
Okay, because I've been in touch with a Van Helsing from London over the last couple of months who's been having a lot of chats with me.
Well, would his name be Jan? Jan?
His first name isn't Jan, but it's a very unusual surname.
Well, Van Helsing goes back to Dracula, too.
Yes.
That's got some name. All right, we'll do that after the fact, and I have no problem with that. I'm sending you a CD for you to look at that. I mean, that was pretty heavy stuff. Going back also to, I said I had two questions. We talked about the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. What is the genesis of the York Rite?
The York Rite supposedly was formed. The traditional story is that it was a 17th century or 18th century creation. Maybe that's when some of it came into the open, because there was always a noble order in England, even from the Knights Templars days, had never disappeared, and they always kept the old mysteries inside noble classes, basically, in all countries. And during coming up to the Industrial Revolution, they needed a middle class to manage the system, and so that's why they came up with the Blue Lodges and so on for Freemasonry, to bring in this new up and coming class who would still keep order by being taught this particular system of Masonry, but it was the lowest order. It was really for non-noble people.
I've talked to a couple of people. I have been reluctant to talk to my uncle, who's now in his mid-80s, about his lifetime involvement with the Masons.
Yeah.
And I remember being maybe 8 or 9 years old and brought to the temple in Hoboken, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And as a kid, I wandered free. And I went into, I guess, what do you call the inner hall where they actually have the ceremonies?
Yeah, there's lots of temple, really.
All right, and I mean, I was there, and I kind of knew I shouldn't be there. I don't really remember much. There was a stage. I can't remember if the floor was checkerboarded or not. And I do remember that a cleaning man came in and I hid under a desk until he was done, and I came running out. But, only about a month or two ago, without pressing him, because this is not fair now to talk, to grill him. Mm-hmm. But I asked him, I said, I kind of beat around the bush, and I said, what was your involvement? And he said, I was only in the Blue Lodge.
Yeah.
Now, I've had other people tell me, and I respect them, they're not, whatever. I wanted the truth no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, even if you're in the Blue Lodge, you got to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Pike would say differently. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, the whole trick in Freemasonry is never to press someone with a superior degree for information. It's knowing what not to ask, really.
So are you saying that if he didn't want to go there, he didn't have to even know that it was there?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right, because, he's been a church-going Methodist. I cannot find anything in his walk or anything that would belie the fact that he was a cult. Honest to goodness, and Lady Viz, I think you would agree with me. He's a decent individual.
Mm-hmm.
But again, he's had a lifelong attachment to it, and yet I don't see anything. Mm-hmm. I only probe him a certain amount, and I think that was only fair. But regardless, there is, as Pike said, the porch members. I guess you would say they would be Blue Lodge.
Yeah.
That are in the community that do basically some good works, just like the Freemason Shriners do, mm-hmm. to a certain degree, and no pun intended.
Yep.
And but yet behind this there is a very occult depth.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about today. Now, two things. One, we had mentioned in a conversation, and I find it very interesting, when a student at the university for which I work, which is Catholic, was looking for the origins of monks, of the monastics. I told her I really don't know. Let's do a search. And she came up with the fact that the first monks came out of Egypt.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I have since found out that the Catholic Church denies that.
Mm-hmm.
But would you agree, one, that in fact is true, and what does that bode? And I'm not going to slam the Catholic religion, but I have to admit there's a certain kind of connection between the Vatican and Egyptian sun god worship.
Yes.
Can we say that yes, the monks came out of Egypt?
Yes. In the Irish histories, it's well recorded and documented that the first missionaries that brought Christianity to Ireland in the 1st century and 2nd century AD were actually from Egypt. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason you have the same carvings and so on the graves, which is sort of like a maze-type shape, These are all Egyptian symbols that they brought with them. And in fact, they were up in Ireland for about 600 years, or about 600 AD, and before the Catholic Church started to try to penetrate. But these Egyptians had a different form of Christianity. It was a Gnostic-type Christianity.
Gnostic, okay. But, and I am curious, I've heard this from other sources as well, about the, I guess, the attraction to Ireland. But why? Why, Alan? Why do you think they might have circumvented Britain, or what we knew was Britain at that time, and gone to Ireland? Was there something there? Was there anything about the Celtic or Gaelic heritage that made them more open?
I think it probably was. There was some kind of connection. It's like we get a confusing history of Ireland because supposedly there's some different races actually in Ireland. You had the Milesians that came across, the darker-haired ones that came through Spain eventually, and when you say Milesians, it's with a T, for T-I-A-N, and that's where the word military came from, or militia came from.
Okay.
Because everybody in the tribe was part of their natural militia, and then there was another group came in later who were red-haired, green, blue-eyed type. So you had a mixture of people there, and for some reason, the Egyptian priests thought this important, and now it's possible it was the same two groups who ran even ancient Egypt at one time, the same racial extract perhaps, because Egypt, we know that the pharaohs, and going back to Sumer, same thing, that the pharaohs wore, and the nobility of Egypt all wore wigs, black wigs, and that they were made from the hair of the local people. but their own hair was generally a red color, and their eyes were green. And they also wore fake beards, you know.
Jeez.
So they found these in the tombs, and they found them too in one of the big tombs they unearthed, the Sumer of a king and queen. So there's a connection between the red-haired for sure and the green eyes. Yeah.
Okay, now, all right, now I don't mean to digress, but you just triggered something I had read. About a year ago, that there was some kind of archaeological dig in western China, and they came up with a red-haired individual. Do you remember this?
Yeah, they figure they're around 3000 BC.
All right.
And the Chinese do have ancient records of these people coming in to the outskirts of their countries.
Were they coming from the west necessarily?
It seemed to be there was a trade route there, and there were semi-nomadic people, but it's thought that they may have brought goods with them. So they may have been traders. It's hard to tell. They have found the graves of many of the graves on this particular trade route, and they seem to be into a pantheistic form of worship because, especially the women, were often tattooed with odd markings that may be celestial orientated. And they also used hashish, you know.
All right, so what I mentioned might, in a sense, have some kind of connection through some perhaps Euro-Indic tribe from way back when.
I think so. I think India, one of the countries least spoken about, is a big player.
Yes.
And always has been, because they were the main traders to Sumer. 5000 BC. People forget this all came from the Indic Valley, and the actual Indian traders set up a halfway port for all trade goods in the island of Bahrain, off Africa, and that's where the Sumerians had to transport all their stuff for trade. So the Sumerians primarily traded wool from sheep, and got all their goods, their pottery and various other things from India at this particular exchange port.
A listener to the show who now lives in Vancouver, lives there now, was born in India, and he has said something to me which is interesting because I believe he's right. I don't know on what side this will all come down, but we'll look, as we believe in Scripture, about what might happen in the end days. He's saying don't discount India, and we really do. We kind of overlook that giant.
Yeah.
But the thing is, now we look at it and we say, well, okay, well, they're not really at peace with Pakistan, Muslims. They're not at peace with China. So, what does this have any kind of bearing on Jerusalem and where do they all fit in? But certainly a nation of that size. We definitely overlook it. Do you have any kind of take on where India's role might be in the coming decades?
Well, what is interesting is that there are so many authors coming out of Britain right now who are sort of, under the guise of exposing the system, are also promoting the New Age.
Okay. Maitreya? Are we talking about Maitreya?
That's only part of it. I mean, all of this is connected to MI6. All of it.
British intelligence.
Yes, and all these main authors as well, because MI6 has a department outside the Cotswolds area of London where they train people, selected individuals, to go out into the world to create mysticism and confusion.
Did Orwell fit in that at all?
No, he didn't, no.
Okay.
He was picked right from university, from Cambridge, to be a partial revolutionary and a writer, of course, but he wasn't attached to the MI5.
All right, so his presence in India really is just coincidental.
Yeah, he was following his father's footsteps.
Okay.
He went to Burma,
MI6, would you call that the American version of the CIA, which is supposed to be external, not internal?
It's supposed to be, yeah. But people also forget that Britain still has the British Secret Service, which has always been there, and they only recruit from aristocracy, and that's above all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So they have all the powers to do whatever they wish, basically. But these authors that are coming out of Britain right now, under the guise of exposing the coming New Order, are also pushing the New Age phenomenon. Now, they started this whole thing back in the 1880s with Madame Blavatsky,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and the idea was to promote a change, a sort of phase shift in people's thinking to possibility thinking, by saying that they could, by mystifying them again, always give them mystery, which intrigues them,
mm-hmm.
and then maybe they start to fall away from the regular churches and start into the exploration of theosophical occultism. Now, Blavatsky, I'm sure, was a front person herself,
mm-hmm.
and the goal really was to eventually prepare the public for a merging of Christianity with Hinduism,
mm-hmm.
for the New Age.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what we're seeing promoted.
Well,
it definitely is. Now, again, going back to India, and looking at how that's been run almost untouched for thousands of years, with its caste system, a perfect ordered caste system, where if you're born into the lower caste, you simply accept it, and you're a slave, and that's what you do as a slave. And you don't complain. No one rebels. They all accept this caste system. And that apparently is what they want to reintroduce into the new system that they're bringing about all over the world.
Well,
they actually want to bring in a caste system. The Lord of the Rings was all about that.
mm-hmm.
Under the guise of different pixies, elves, a different order, right down to the troll type at the bottom. And even the dead that helped them to win the war, that's the general public. That was promoting the perfect harmony of that caste system.
Well, I look at the time machine now, and I can't look at it ever again the same way. It
Mm-hmm.
came to me, in a movie that had Rod Taylor in it back at the early 60s. But then when I went and I looked at the book, knowing what H.G. Wells had in mind, and I don't think that he wrote any of his, quote, fiction works
mm-hmm.
without injecting this somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And I look at the Eloys and the Morlocks, and I'm saying, that seems pretty much to me where everything's going.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I think so. I mean, H.G. Wells he wasn't a little man who typed it under a candle or anything. He had a whole building with floors of secretaries and typists, and even had a printing shop in there, all supplied and backed by the British government. He was a propagandist for the British government.
Yeah.
And right down to the phrases, the war to end all wars, that was his,
Well, when you look at two of his titles, which are out there on the net, people can read them online, they are there extant. I mean, how do you just brush away those two titles, The Open Conspiracy and New World Order?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there it is right in your face.
Yeah.
But at this time, I just want to let everybody know, you listen to the Grassy Knoll. This is Viz. We have with us Alan Watt. Alan, are the three titles that you have to offer that you embrace in the Cutting Through series, do you treat matters like what we're talking about?
I do to an extent. The first two really are written in a completely different style to try and wake up people. It's a Gestalt type method, so that your brain has to work as you're reading it.
Okay.
You're not getting passively downloaded and with stuff you'll forget. So, it's a different way of putting certain things across. But I also point out things which should be so obvious to them, which are not, And I'm trying to show them that the survival capabilities have been somehow nullified or definitely blunted. And this is all by design, of course. So I try to shake them out of it by showing them things which are beyond coincidence,
mm-hmm.
right down to the language itself, which was designed in the 1500s, the English language, to contain all of these double-speak meanings and so on. That's no coincidence whatsoever, because Francis Bacon and John Dee, who helped create it, wrote about it, So, I mean, I'll give an example. I mean, the word Kohan, Cain, all mean the same thing.
Okay.
It's all mean, and king even, you see.
Mm-hmm.
These are all dialectical variations of the same word. And really Kohan and Khan and Kon mean priest, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So you take even the system itself, which began, we're told the beginning of this phase of the civilization began at Sumer, and you put the two words together and you have consumer, you know. I mean, I kid you not.
I know. I'm sitting here going, yeah. Oh,
Mm-hmm. And you'll find this all through the English language, all these strange coincidences, right down to supposedly if we transformed the language so many times by different peoples, etc., how come that the actual word, not the titles of the sun god of ancient Egypt, but the general word for the sun was the sun, you know, and a man's offspring, male, was also a son, and that was the same in Egypt. How could that be? Unless, of course, there are priesthoods literally coming down through the ages who understand this ancient technique of language creation and know that the key to control is the language itself. Your language is no different from a computer. A programmer who programs that computer technically should be able to be given a question, and he should know by the logic of the computer and the language he's given it the conclusion that computer must come to. And our language is exactly the same way. It's formed the same way.
In the books that you've written, do you contain a bibliography at all?
I do mention different books through it. Mm-hmm. Once in a while, if someone asks me, I'll put in an extended one for them. You know, if they want to go on the paper trail, and that's what it is. It's a paper trail, you know.
Well, it's not so much for verification. Mm-hmm. I admit there might be something to it, but what I'm given to do, and I have for a long time, is that when I've heard authors and on talk shows, of course, it's always piqued my interest, and then I've gotten their works, then I like to go and see what they've looked at also. And I mean, if anything else, it's just it resonates with what that particular author did, and then you have to say, well, the body of evidence kind of proves it, you know, or points to the fact that this is in fact true. And also for those who are slow to come to the point that that this world has been run by conspiracy forever, to have a body of work at your fingertips isn't such a bad thing.
Yes.
Now, your books are available if people will send, they're $25 a piece for 3 titles. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And it would be appreciated if you would send, especially people in the States, international money orders. Correct?
That's right. Yeah.
All right. And they would send them to you, Alan Watt, at Site 41, Box 4. The town is Astaire, Ontario. That's Estaire, Astaire, Ontario. And if I've got the your zip correct, that would be P3E4N1. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll do that a couple of times through there. Are you planning to add anything to that? Is that pretty much those 3 titles, volumes, or whatever, the end of the road?
No. I mean, I can go much further. I've been teaching a lot of people over the years, mainly by phone.
Okay.
But I can go much further, absolutely. But you can't just hand all this to people who no. It's so alien to them that they couldn't go that far because it's so brand new to them. Anyone can talk about the conspiracy. It's so well detailed and out there. But as to all of the factors that came into play long ago and are still going on right to the present time and into the future, a lot of people can't step out of that comfort zone of what they think is reality and go into the next phase because it will be really bizarre, you know. if they haven't gone a step-by-step process to understand all of this.
Isn't it interesting, though, Alan, that people will go to horror movies, they'll go to sci-fi movies, they want to be scared by what they consider, fantasy.
Yeah.
But then when you take a look deeply, that much of what we've considered science fiction and fantasy is in fact true. And then when people realize that, now we get a different situation.
In the late 1800s, the Rothschilds created a foundation in England to encourage authors to write about certain topics which the Rothschilds supplied.
That wouldn't be Tavistock, would it?
Tavistock eventually became part of it, and so they were trying to start off science fiction writers.
Mm-hmm.
And of course Tavistock later gave the term to this process, where you read novels, now it's watching movies, but then it was novels aimed at the young, to make those young people excited about this imaginative future that could be brought forth. And Tavistock calls it predictive programming.
Programming, there you go.
So that's what all fiction really has been for, from then on at least, and maybe even before. But this process is well understood. It's when you're getting a lecture on something, you have a little sensor there that kicks out certain things you won't believe or disagree with. But when it comes to fiction, that sensor part is down. And so you're wide open, you're being downloaded with possibility thinking, as they call it. And so something that would sound nuts if you were not brainwashed with this kind of material actually starts to sound quite natural. So we think we're evolving along a natural path. And we don't question why NASA is given billions of dollars, and yet it's a highly secretive society. Everybody in NASA has to be 33rd degree at least, or 32nd.
Ooh.
And of course NASA's main job is not just going out into space, it's also to create satellites and so on that will spy on us for this great network they're making. But they had to get everybody for 50 or 60 years or more to grow up thinking that this is a natural progression.
With science fiction writers, which I guess we can start with, I guess to a certain extent. I mean, you can go back to Bacon talking about, what was the title of his book? About Atlantis, the New Atlantis, right?
He wrote, there's a whole bunch of titles. In fact, I doubt it was just really just one man, because he wrote so many books.
But the seminal work is the New Atlantis, is it not?
He wrote that around the same time Moore wrote Utopia. And they were basically along the same lines, that the New Atlantis was to be an Atlantis-type colony created in the Atlantic, which was the U.S., of course.
Yeah.
And it would give it an appearance on the surface of being run by a form of input by the public, but in reality, he said it would be run by a secret groups of scientists. And he meant social scientists and so on,
All right,
what we call psychologists.
With modern science fiction writers, say in the 20th century, and I think besides Wells, most of them pop up around 1950 or so. And I think back to Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, Burgess's Clockwork Orange, Brave New World by Huxley. Do you think that they were, and Philip K. Dick's books? Okay, take whatever you want. Minority Report or Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Do you believe that they were handled? Do you think some of them were handled? Do you think even if they were or weren't handled, that they were given a glimpse into what was going to come?
There's no doubt. I mean, Huxley himself gave a talk at Berkeley University in 1967.
62, just before he died.
62, yeah.
That's right.
And he actually mentioned in that talk that he had been to Tavistock many times. He was connected with Tavistock. In fact, the only time he became animated is when he talked about how these wires in people's brains could mean that people could be controlled. That's when he became animated and excited. He thought this was fantastic. So yeah, he was deeply involved with Tavistock. and once again given his material, and no doubt by a whole team of people, and he had to basically write the story around the data.
And also Burgess, then, that famous last scene that is emblazoned in all our minds when Alex, is all wired up.
Yeah.
So we're looking really, probably what's happening today, especially with this unfortunate situation with this, is torture okay or not? I can't even believe this is in the public dialectic.
Mm-hmm.
But really, they knew that this was all possible. In fact, and probably was already developed.
Yeah, absolutely. I was reading through the biography of Rutherford, who was the world's most famous mathematician in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and before 1920, he mentions in his own memoirs. He said, "I was working on a project to do with human genes." Now, supposedly at that time, the human gene had never been found yet.
Yes.
Why would you need a mathematician?
Yeah. What's your answer?
The answer is that whatever we are told is obsolete news.
Well, I think we might have said in this series, it spanned a couple of weeks and I might have forgotten, but I remember that one woman saying, if you hear about it now, it was an R&D 50 years ago.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. In Francis Bacon's New Atlantis, in the last chapter, and again he goes through the virtues, the Masonic virtues, etc. And Bacon himself was a Rosicrucian, which was one of the first to set up the Freemasonic system. But he talks about, in the last chapter, about getting into the underground laboratories, where the whole complex is powered by the energy from something which gave off the light and heat of the sun. And that sounds like nuclear power.
Well,
and he said next door to it was a laboratory where they controlled the weather and could create hurricanes and storms and earthquakes,
But you must understand too, and I did this about, a couple of weeks ago. Alan, there's a paragraph in Orwell's 1984 that is just jam-packed. It's almost like somebody who was talking on the phone and had to get off real quick, just said, and this will happen, this will happen, this will happen. And he talked all about that.
Yeah.
Orwell said about the laboratories, here and there and everywhere, about harnessing the sun, which we kind of think might be HAARP, and creating artificial earthquakes or tsunamis. So, he resonates this as well. So,
Well, you think about Bacon's New Atlantis, which was published, it was written in the late 1500s and published in 1602. And he's writing about this stuff in 1602. And he said another laboratory underground, they're all underground or inside mountains. Another laboratory said we can take the minutest form of plant life, add to it the life, the basic life forms of other plants. He wasn't talking about splicing them. He said, and we can create a brand new species, he said. He said we can do the same with any kind of animal life. And he said we know what the end product will be before we begin, meaning it was not experimenting. They already knew the processes.
Holy mackerel.
And even breeding special mosquitoes to carry bacterium for warfare purposes.
I'm just sitting here thinking about the possibilities, and all I've read, and as I said to you, I don't necessarily believe in a hollow earth theory completely, but something's going on subterranean.
Oh, they've always, but even the Egyptians, Herodotus, who did a lot of the Egyptian histories for the Greeks, and who also was, like all of them, he was initiated into the mysteries himself. He had tours of the underground facilities under Egypt, and some of them went on for miles. And these were all man-made. They were not. It's not a hollow earth. It's simply the best place to hide things from the prying eyes of the public. Yeah. And just as today, I was going over an old report by the Rand Corporation from the 1960s, and they'd built over 280 underground silos and containment places for the U.S. military then, and they were then demanding that they build at least another 400 to house the elite, etc., underground. So this has always been the way, is to hide things underground or inside mountains.
I want to go back to Freemasonry in the time that we have left to talk about how it is, I would think, the religion of the world, and that all the leaders are kind of hooked in. Yeah. And like we like to say, kind of, somewhat sarcastically, they all know the handshake. But there is something I'm keeping my eye toward, and I'm going to ask you your take on this. Denver, Colorado, and the Rocky Mountain West is very interesting in the United States. It seems that there are a lot of things there already, like NORAD and some Super Cray computers. Also, the CIA recently stated they were moving some functions out there. We all know about Denver Airport, how expansive it is for so little traffic, which even my non-conspiratorial pilot buddies will say they can't understand, and they're still building runways. You talk about the cavernous underground, which, if you can believe, Phil Schneider lost his life for talking about. And then you look at the name of the airport. Its true name is New World Airport. It's got a Masonic capstone there. And so here's what I'm saying. Are we looking at the possibility that if it hits the fan, in a nuclear sense, that everything will be moved out to that area, and that everybody's going to hunker down out in, let's face it, Colorado has got mines. It's already got everything going for itself. Even Orwell talked about boring machines, right, back in 48. So are we looking at a time when if it hits the fan, that when the New World arises, my feeling is that Denver probably will be the capital of the American Union, and of course D.C. will be absolutely smoked, and we will lose all connection to our old republic. That's a big of a mouthful, but how do you feel about that, Alan?
Yeah, they have planned for every possible contingency. And the U.S. also has another underground base built in Australia. Another branch of government will go to try and survive. Now, they're talking about some global disaster which they might bring on themselves. But traditionally, even in ancient times, the elite always had three. They always used the Trinity in this mystery religion for everything. And they always had three places, so that if one was destroyed, perhaps the other two would survive. But they never put all their eggs in one basket. Yeah, they always have three.
Well, let's go to religions, and let's finish up with Freemasonry. Is it the global religion?
It is, yes, it is. I mean, Albert Pike stated it quite emphatically. Freemasonry is a religion. And it has all of the usual things: ritualism, symbolism, their own mandate, and it definitely is a religion. It's always been here. I think it was here long before the Rosicrucians came up. The noble orders had them. The Knights of the Garter were formed in King John's day, and at that time it was all for nobility. It was never given to the common people until they created a middle class to handle the factories. So they had to give them a semblance of Freemasonry for that purpose. But it's interesting too that when the British troops went into India in the 1700s, they were flabbergasted to find that almost every town in India had a Masonic lodge.
Well, but I've talked to you about taking photos and keeping them for a later date to put up with regard to knowing the handshake. And of course there is that little peculiar handshake that has taken place for as long as it's been photographs. And I find that interesting. It would seem to be emblematic of Freemasonry. But if that is the case, and I believe that to be true, every single government, and we talked before about Arafat, and you can talk about Sharon now, and you can talk about Blair, and whatever, Churchill, everybody, United States, and Saddam too, perhaps. They're all in the Brotherhood. They all know the handshake, and they all play their parts.
Yes, they do.
Now, given that, I just got to ask you, what do you think the fate of Saddam will be, if in fact he's in the Brotherhood?
We might get anything at all. They might say he's been put in a prison that no one can visit, similar to Hess when he went to Spandau prison. and we'll never know if he's there or not. They might say that they've executed him. We'll never know if they did or not.
Unless it's public, and it's got to be, I hate to say, a beheading or an electrocution or a hanging.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everybody will say, well, that's a double. You know,
they literally, I mean, seeing is believing, as Wag the dog kept telling us, and whatever they show us will appear to be real, and these are masters of deception, you know.
Absolutely.
They've been at this deceptive game forever. But, as I say, when Arafat when they were doing the peace treaties with Israel, you would see him and the Prime Minister of Israel going through the 5 points of Freemasonry as they met each other. You know, as it's hand to hand, and then hand to elbow, toe to toe, knee to knee, and then hand to round the back, as you'll see. You think they're just hugging each other, and then it's cheek to cheek, you know.
Well, a lot of people may not understand that. There is a procedure, or there is a greeting, if you will, a protocol, which this takes place, and it's on the net. Off the top of your head, and I have seen that. Do you know anywhere, any website that people could go to go ahead and take a look at that?
Well, actually, to see it, I mean, I've got it written down from the old charges here in the first book.
You have it in the first book?
Yeah, this one was, I don't know, it was published around the 1700s. But, and it's from the Cater Coronati Lodge in London. That's their main research lodge for the Masons.
Well, isn't it interesting that Israel bore down on Arafat, and they could have killed him if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But it wasn't ordained.
Yeah, and he was an Egyptian. They couldn't do it, you know.
Oh, okay.
If you look at the death of Arafat and that strange burial he had, you didn't see anything of national flag on the coffin, but they had a little Canadian flag there. And the reason for the Canadian flag being there is because the Canadian flag is red and white. And red and white are the two lands of Israel. The white, together they formed the hat. There was two parts to the hat. One was white, one was red. And that's why they put that on there, to symbolize the ancient Egyptian lineage he belonged to.
You said hat?
Yeah.
Oh, would you expound on that a little bit?
The Egyptian kings wore a strange-looking hat.
Okay. And
it was a two-part hat with almost a white dome-type thing that stuck on the top of it.
Okay.
And each part represented ancient Egypt. The white part was for southern Egypt, and the red part for north. So a pharaoh who was in charge of the two lands, as they called them, wore the hat with the red and the white. So that's why they snuck that Canadian flag on, that little Canadian flag on Arafat's coffin. It was to let all those in the know that he belonged to the old Egyptian lineages.
Well, then can we extrapolate, since, well, you know, you could say it's a coincidence, and it might be. But red and white...
There's no other flag on it, you know.
Well, no, I'm just looking at our flag. I'm thinking Australia's flag. I'm thinking the Union Jack.
Yep.
I mean, red and white, you know, you could say that's pretty common colors, but I'm wondering if there is a thread through all of that.
Oh, absolutely. The red symbolizes the fire and the blood, of course, for the ongoing revolution, always. It's Kabbalistic as well, and it goes way back to Babylon. White is again the pure ones, the hidden masters, the spirits, you know. And blue, of course, is for the openness of the sky, but it's also the first. But in the Kabbalah, it's the first color that comes from black. That's how they put it. So it's law. So the blue has another meaning, not just the open. It also means under law. And so it's the fire for the revolution, for the agenda, and the white for the hidden masters, meaning the spirit of them. The perfection is white. And then the blue is for under law.
Well, I'll feed into this to a certain point, because when I look back, you know, I'm really not understanding how we embrace this symbol. When you look at the star, that is, you know, in North Korea, in Russia, in Cuba, and with us, and it's like, you know, why did a star have 5 points? When I look up in the sky, I'm not really seeing a 5-pointed object. So, okay, so you know where I'm going. So, in other words, we're looking at the star, and we're really looking at a pentagram.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You're looking at a particular part. There are different points, depends on the higher sex. In England, they have ones there with 8 points. And 8 is the number for new beginnings, but it's also the number for power and money, run by power and money. So the 5 point has its own particular function, and that's the exploration, or the navigators, they call them. They're still going through a form of revolution. And those countries, remember, England was the first country to have a revolution, and you got the red, white, and blue flag. The next one was the U.S., red, white, and blue, and then that was followed by France, which is red, white, and blue too.
Well, the English Revolution to which you're referring is which one?
That's the one when they ousted Charles, you know.
Okay. Should we divine anything from the fact that in the United States, which I'm starting to really realize was probably a training ground for a New World Order?
The old system used the exoteric lions, etc., on the unicorns, which all go back again to ancient India. And so they have the old occultic symbols. The lions, again, from Babylon, like the lion's gate at Babylon had the 2 rampant lions standing over its coat of arms. And somehow that ended up on the British coat of arms. But the U.S. was the first country to use the again occult symbols from Babylon, but in an updated form. And they also were the first country to build an actually brand new obelisk.
Yep.
All the other countries from the old world took in obelisks from Egypt and put them in their main capital centers.
To include the Vatican, is that correct?
That's right. Well, actually, Constantine's son brought the one over to Rome. He was sent off, commissioned to bring it in. And they initially set it up in the circus, and it was a much later pope who had it moved and brought in front of the window, Peter Square.
Well, should I divine anything from the fact that of all the colonies that could have turned to states, how many there were, that 13 was that a peculiar number?
No, it's the number for the resurrection of Osiris, Egypt.
Because of the lost, the found 13 parts?
Yeah, he was chopped up.
Right, into 14,
13
right.
parts, that's right.
Typhon.
And so, technically, the 14th part is the what they call the lost word.
Well,
also the lost word.
Well, if that's the case, then, if we're looking at 13 colonies that turn to states, isn't it interesting that D.C. would not be a state, but the 14th part?
That's right.
In which we have the obelisk known as the Washington Monument, which is 555 feet, which is multiplied by 12 inches, equals 6660. That's not a coincidence, is it?
Oh, no, these guys don't do it. They love they're obsessional about numbers and occult numbers.
But, you know, the thing is, I've never really questioned, Alan, before talking to you right this very moment, why the district would be the district. I mean, why? I mean, I guess I look at the city of London, we always thinking of London, but I think you would tell me that within London there's the city of London.
That's right.
All right, so he would look at the district, which knows no state, and very well might have been the 14th part to the 13 states.
Yes.
All right, so
and of course, D.C., if you would speak that, instead of just to spell out the letters, D.C., dis in French, is 10.
Right.
And 10 is the binary code that's all through Masonry, and all through language, actually, and computers. It's the binary code. It's a very high, it's a male and female, as well.
Well, I'm going to leave with a question which, I don't know how you're going to feel, but before we do that, I want to say that this is the Grassy Knoll. This is Biz. We have with us Alan Watt. He has 3 books, each $25. It's a cutting through series. As he said, it's a companion to many of the interviews and all the interviews he has done. You can access them by sending in an international money order, $75, and you will sell them separately, will you not?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So if somebody wants to put their foot in first, they can do that with the first title, right? All right. To Alan Watt at Site 41, Box 4, Esther, that's EST, A-I-R-E, Ontario, where there's 12 inches of snow, and to this zip code, and that's a postal code, and that is P3E4N1. All right? Now, what I want to ask you about numerology, as we leave this the show, 9/11.
Yeah.
Is that spiritually / occult important?
There's no doubt. I mean, the old number in England for years on the telephones for emergency response when I was growing up was 999.
Okay.
And of course, it was the old dial phone. So when you turned that dial, it would turn to 666. You see?
Okay.
And so that was no coincidence. So yeah, when they give you an emergency number, it's highly significant. And 9 is completion in their symbology. 11 are the two pillars, Jachin and Boaz, representing fire and water, the male and the female. So fire again is the agenda, the spirit of revolution towards a goal, and water, technically in a sense, is represents the earth as well, the mother matter. That's where the word comes from, and tempered by that. In other words, tempered by that side of it.